Here's the first ever TSL prototype happily counting away. It's currently running off of a 20 ppm crystal, so it'll gain or lose about a second per day. We can drop that by at least an order of magnitude by using either the Dallas chip or doing temperature compensation ourselves in software, although doing the temperature compensation would be a lot more work. But it does save about $2 in the BOM cost and a microamp or two in power. This prototype right now is drawing about 15 microamps. That is without any optimization at all. I just wrote the simplest possible software that could make it run. And the hardware is also the simplest hardware you can imagine. It's literally just the ATmega 169 and a hold-up capacitor and the LCDs and then the firing pin over here. We can drop that power usage by at least 50% just by making a few software optimizations, and then we can drop it at least 50% more by making some hardware optimizations, and switching to another processor could drop it probably another 50% after that. But even so, this prototype unit right here, as it is sitting here counting, is projected to last about 15 years based on the battery data sheet and that power level. So this little guy right here will still be counting in 2033 without any battery change whatsoever. Let's see how it works. This prototype has in it a way of resetting it, which I do not think should be in the production unit. In the production unit, I feel like there should be no way to reset it without completely replacing the hardware. So let's reset it, and then I'm going to hold the firing pin down with my finger and pull out the reset. So now this is in ready mode. This is how it would ship. I really like the idea of having a pattern on the screen that can indicate that it's fully functional. That pattern is driven off the same 1 pulse per second signal that would be updating the counter if it was counting, and this also activates all the digits, so you'd be able to tell if there was any problems. There's no chance that you're going to get to your big event, pull the trigger, and then find out that there's dead something in it, because if this is working, the whole thing is working. So here's what it looks like when you activate it. I'm going to pull the firing pin now. It took a little bit of work to make that react instantaneously because the counter can be halfway through one of its cycles. You never know when you're going to pull the pin. If you take a look at the LCD, these are the cheap Alibaba LCDs, and interestingly they are optimized for a negative 30-degree view angle, which is approximately where we're looking at them right now. My guess is that in real life the real TSL is going to be sitting on a desk in its tube, so we're really going to want a positive 30-degree viewing angle. One easy way we could get there is just by flipping these upside down and then displaying the digits upside down and backwards. So we'll have to talk about that. One of the really interesting problems that I ran into is that these really low power levels, the amount of charge going into each one of these digits is so small that even just the capacitance of the battery connectors, those metal battery connectors on the board, was enough to consume almost all the charge going to the digits from the traces that passed underneath that battery clip. That was really hard to figure out. Solved the problem by just gapping the battery clip by like half a millimeter away from the PCB, and that's enough to reduce the capacitance, and then everything looked great. The battery clip footprints also were wrong. They don't match what's in the data sheet for the battery clip, but I'm not so crazy about these battery clips anyway. I think we're probably going to want something higher quality if this is meant to last decades. Another issue is that this firing pin part that was specified is actually backwards of what we want. When it would be sitting waiting to get fired, it's actually closed, and then when you pull the firing pin, it opens. So that means the entire time this thing is sitting waiting to be activated, it's using a tiny bit of power. Ideally, it would be great if we can find some kind of part, either a direct replacement for this or some other arrangement, where the switch is open while it's waiting to be activated, and then you close it to start it counting. Once you close it, it will use power for that microsecond, but as soon as it's closed and we start up counting, we can just disconnect that switch so it won't use power for the rest of the life of the product. Let's see, what else? This prototype also has a fast count just for testing. The way you activate the fast count is by putting a jumper on the service port. Again, I don't expect this in the prototype, but it is good for testing. So you connect those two pins and it counts basically as fast as it can update the LCD. And that's it. Look forward to hearing feedback.